it's going to take some pretty good power to come in and reset density. We know that during the summer, and in this particular field, we had a week of 95-degree heat. And that 95-degree heat dried out this soil and it collapsed down and the density got extremely tight. In other words, in between all the clay lattices, which are usually spread apart like this, with moisture, when that moisture leaves, those lattices come together. There's two ways to collapse a field of corn. You can either dry it out by taking the moisture out, or you can run a loaded grain cart across. Either one will take the lattices and collapse them down. So we're in here resetting that. So next spring, those roots are gonna grow. And there's always a question, what depth should I run? When we talk about setting your ripper for depth, probably you see this done a lot. They'll just take a tile probe or something like that, and they'll go in, set it down to where they feel the ripper ran, then they'll come out and go ahead and they'll measure exactly where their finger was. In this case, it's measuring 14 inches. And we know we have this ripper set at 11.5. What are they really measuring? They're measuring the fluff. In other words, as we reset the density, we exploded this ground up. So it's a real challenge to come in and use a probe in the back and to get to where you feel the solid bottom where the 2-inch ripper point is running, and then put your hand on that fluff, and when you come out, you're probably gonna be almost 2 to 3 inches deeper than reality. So let's talk about how would we set a ripper. Obviously, we want it to be running extremely level, and so that's why we have the large turnbuckle up on the hitch to get these rippers to run. Hitch height makes a tremendous difference. So after you get your tractor hooked up and you get in the field approximately the depth you want to go, you level your machine, you get your disc blades to be running the depth you want. In our case, we're running them about 4 inches, so we're throwing those root balls out and we're confusing all that top root system. Then we're coming in and we're running 11.5 inches. Let's take a look at that and see exactly how we measure that. So while I usually check it, I'll just go in and take a spade, dig right to the front of the ripper point that you see I got exposed here, and I put my tape right down at that same depth. Then I go ahead and find me a straight edge, and I'll come across, and I'll just take that straight edge, and you can see here, with the straight edge running across the ground, I'm right exactly at 11.5 inches. So I'm holding down on the back of the straight edge where the firm soil is. I'm away from where I've exploded it. I'm down to the bottom of the ripper point, and you can see here on the camera, we're right at 11.5. That's how we adjust for depth. And we know that the 360 bullet runs about a 1/2 inch deeper than your standard point, so it's something we're gonna ask you to do is dig, and you might have to bring the whole machine up about a 1/2 inch to be run the same depth as what you were pulling previously. The reason I take the time for both our rippers to dig along the side and get on the virgin ground and get the accurate depth of the bottom of the ripper point itself is that I realize that OEMs, when they put the stickers on the handle adjustment here, they're not calibrated. And so it would be really hard to say, well, the D setting is gonna be 12 inches. So take the time to dig, especially when we put on different points. Like we said, the 360 is always just a little bit deeper. So take the time to dig, and then after that, then you know that if you're always on the 1 slash after the D, you're good to go at the depth desired. So when you and I start talking about doing tillage, we need to come out in the field and determine where our A-B horizon is. In other words, we're talking our topsoil. The B horizon doesn't mean that it's bad soil. There's usually a moisture change and a color change for sure. And then as we go deeper, we get into the subsoil itself. And it varies all over the Corn Belt, from all the way to the deep south to the far north. So those of you that are in Iowa, you're snickering and laughing. You have an A horizon of 33 inches. There isn't a chance in the world you're gonna get a ripper to go and blend that A-B line. I have friends in Tennessee that are running on a 6-inch A horizon. They wouldn't need this type of a tool. They could possibly reach that with just a chisel plow, with a twist point. They could get into that 7-inch depth pretty easy. But for us here in the Midwest, in the central 3I states, these style of rippers seem to do a pretty good job. So when you come into this, you can pick up here in the soil, you can pick up here in my farm here, about right there is a color change. And when I measure that, that's running right at 11 inches. And so that's why I'm in here at 11 and a half. I want that ripper point to get right into this transition and blend it. And you need to kind of work these banks some to find it. But when you find it, you want to make sure your ripper point's in there, changing that so roots grow right through. In this case, as we go down through this profile, as you can see right here, roots had no problem making the transition, and you can see that as they go through. How deep would we have to dig this pit to run out of roots? As deep as the corn is tall. Roots just grow unless you or I put some kind of a structure or density change in that makes them turn. You know, we dig behind our rippers. I well realize we don't always have a backhoe handy as much as we would like that. So today we were digging the bigger pits. We have the little 60 out here, but most times I carry just a little Boy Scout shovel like this, and I can go behind our ripper and quickly identify any type of obstruction or berms or mounds that we're not getting rid of. And usually what I'll do is I'll find the center of the spade, the deep, then I'll just start about 12 inches over, and I'll just dig it out. And you just dig straight across, and you'll quickly find where the solid is. So let's just dig this out and take a look. So all it takes for you and I to learn, whether that's in the planter, whether that's in the ripper, or even the combine, when you and I get out of the cab, we have a tremendous opportunity to gain knowledge. In this case, we had the 875 with 24-inch ripper shank spacing, and you get out and dig, within 5 minutes with the Boy Scout shovel, you can find exactly what you and I identified, and this is going to stay with us till next year's harvest.